I'm great. No. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the May 14th meeting of the Ocean Highway and Port Authority to order. This time, you would please stand for the invocation led by Vice Chair Nelson, followed by the pledge.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be gathered as a board to address the issues of this county. We ask that you would watch over this meeting, that you would be the guide and direction that we receive. We ask now that you bless our first responders and those that serve us on a daily basis. We ask now that you would watch over us, keep us, and bless us in Jesus' name.
Amen. Please call me the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Representative, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Cole. Vice Chair Nelson.
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, so welcome everyone. We're back to our home meeting space, Tech Center. We're glad to be here. Glad to be joining you all this evening. I want to welcome a couple of new faces up here. We have Ted McNair. He is the new president of Relay Terminals. So glad to have you here with us, and then bring a lot of port experience to your position within the company. So glad to have you here. And then, of course, we have the new GM of Nassau Marine Terminals. Travis is here with us as well. So thank you for joining us. All right. At this time, I don't have any public comment for non-agenda items, but in case I missed anything, anybody wants to speak on non-agenda items? All right. Moving forward, approval of minutes. We have the April 9th, 2025 and the April 23rd, 2025. We can take those together or separate.
I'd like to motion to approve the minutes as.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hill. We have a second from Commissioner Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Court Attorney report, Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The attorney report's in your packet. I'll just talk about really one item that's kind of in the work, which is also on the agenda, and that's the draft settlement agreement regarding the Patrick Warehouse. It's not final. It's still being kind of tossed back and forth. We received the city's red line comments this afternoon, and Coast to Coast's additional red line comments later this afternoon. My understanding is the city and council for the operator a phone call either tomorrow or Friday to iron out kind of their language. I provided my comments, but there's not a final version yet ready for board action. I will circulate either tonight or tomorrow. I'll recirculate these additional red lines for you all to look at. I would just encourage you each to look at them, reach out to me with any questions you have. We'll need to talk about how that's going to be handled going forward, but we can do that later this evening. But I would expect it'll be in some semblance of final form in time for the next meeting. Our special magistrate, quote unquote, mediation session was continued into June. I don't have the exact date in my head. I have to go look at my notes, but we've got some time. But Corey's comments are going back and forth, and I'll give you updated versions of those, and encourage any comments or questions you have to come to me so that we can finalize our position and then elevate it to the board for review and action. If there are any questions on that particular topic, I know it's also later in the agenda. We talk about it then, or we talk about it now, whatever you're.
We can talk about it later.
Really no updates on anything else. Property appraisal case is where it is. We've got a hearing in about a month and a half. So no real action on that. And the other issues are in the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to Patrick? Comments? Good. Thank you, Patrick.
Sir.
Court accountant report. She's not Pierre. She's Joanne. She's here.
Yes, I'm Joanne here that I attend in his absence. And I just have two brief comments on the April financial report.
there was a $1,909, in miscellaneous income. And that represents the FMIT reimbursement for workers' comp insurance for the, um, previous executive director. And then on the quarterly reports, um, on the third page, and it was, the 2 quarters ended March 31st, year over year. There's a $924,000 loss on the sale of assets. And that reflects the loss on the sale of the tugboat and the corresponding equipment. Even though it was approved in the last fiscal year, the contract wasn't signed until this fiscal year. So the auditors asked us to move it into this fiscal year. So that's what that represents. Other than that, everything is, there's no other unusual items.
Any questions for Joanne? Comments?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So was the repayment of that asset realized move forward as well, or? Yeah, it's kind of a net number. You have to write the asset off the books, and then the journal entry. I have the detail, but yeah, it's all in one lump entry. Okay, so it doesn't result in an adjustment to the audit. It's just no, that was okay. Yeah, I had put it on the prior fiscal year report. I had put it on there, but then subsequently the auditors came in and then asked us to move it to this year. So Pierre just wanted me to point that out. So it doesn't look like it was reported twice. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here and filling in for Pierre.
My pleasure.
Great. Tab 10, port operator reports. So this is no, really, you sat through the last meeting, but any updates to the tonnage? You have it in front of us right now, and I do see that April did pretty good with Woodhull. So yeah, anything to add? Or
I'll just add that, I mean, really strong month to see the vessels there. Now, I mean, constituents probably see the activity in their homes and in the neighborhood. Really strong month. Like I said, we're reversing it seems. And so, I frankly think on the road trajectory, if you look today,
Bring it really close to your mouth. Yeah, otherwise they can't hear you.
sorry about that. Really strong growth trajectory. No, we're not talking about sure, but the past month, but really proud of what our team pulled off. I think this trend should generally continue. If we're looking at the buses we have on the dock now, for instance, we have a export boat that's finishing now. There's 2 boats right behind it, waiting for that third, while a Prince March has the other third occupied. That'll start working once. We'll have 3 games working tomorrow. So really proud of our team, and yeah, I think the best is yet to come.
Thank you. Any question regarding the tonnage? All right, facilities report. Is there any updates to the facilities? Ted, Travis, anything to report on the facilities or any update to anything there? Okay, and how about new business? You talk about, looking forward to what's to come. Do you have anything in the pipeline? Things are just looking good. They're looking up so far.
Looking up, I would say that at this point we're getting to because I've done port operations for a while, so it's Travis. And so when your space is full, we start to get pretty creative with our customers. You want to find that ceiling. So when it comes to, especially the long time on cargo, warehouse space is very precious for us right now. So I've directed our commercial team and Travis as well. We're going to get creative and try to find a way to cycle cargo faster. Because to cycle cargo faster, that means we accommodate more tons. And those vessels will start offloading more cargo. Bernardino versus Jacksonville, looking at proceed with it. I welcome any questions. I could talk about this all day.
Any questions for Ted?
Have we already, bringing it up again?
Yeah, so it's in process. To be truthful, I haven't issued PO yet. I'm looking at some, what our options could be, to further and enhance the I'm the new guy, and so I want to make sure, we're doing what's best for the board, the community, and our partners. But rest assured, the path forward is going to be, either refurbished frames and new frames, or we're right above it, but, I do plan to see decisions going to be made, uh, very quickly, because obviously that's a huge asset that we need up and running.
Thank you, Ted. All right, old business, our RFP for engineering services. We received, I think it was yesterday, Rosanna sent out to us the 10 proposals, received them in Dropbox. Does anybody here have any questions or comments? And also want to defer to the operator, Ted or Ted and Travis, if you have time to look at them. What are your thoughts? Where would you rank them, prioritize them? What do you see there? We'll start off with any comments, questions? All right. Ted,
So, this is for general engineering services,
Mhm.
which, I know enough to be dangerous about. So, I'm not sure how you'd like to proceed. I mean, how much input do you want from us? And then this is not strictly a maritime function. So, um, I'm just not sure how to proceed here, how much input you need from us in this.
so when it came up, we're going back months, 6+ months ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, on this, but it's really a recommendation to have engineering firm on retainer. So we then went out, RFP. Now we're getting these proposals back, but this is something that very much I think the operator should be involved in and engaged with. It's and us as well. So we want your feedback, we want your input, and kind of where you think things should fall. Because we just got these yesterday, and there's a lot. I think that we need to have some time to go through to review all of them, and then make an adequate decision, and be able to rank them. So Patrick, you set up. Are you gonna?
I can't recall how many there were.
It was 10.
So it may be that each board member individually wants to go through and rank yours, or either list questions that you have of the operator, and then I would suggest that the operator do the same and narrow it down from 10 to somewhere around 3, and then have another discussion at that point about whether you want them to come in or you want to hear from them, or any of that. But I'd whittle it down first. So maybe the thing for the board members to do would be to rank your top 3 or 5 that you want to put forth for consideration, have the operator do the same thing, and then see where that lands you.
And if our top threes don't match, then we'll just go from there. But
Well, so what I can do, Chairman, is I can defer to, as you're well aware, Relay is, partner of Savage, so we have a full engineering team there. So I can try to schedule some time with them to run through them. But I mean, off the top of my head, relevant experience and maritime functions is going to be high. I'm sure.
sure.
You want to put a time frame in getting that done, or?
Yeah. We have our next meeting in a couple of weeks. I don't know if that's going to be enough time for you to get with your team. The next meeting is May 28th. This may be something where we move to the first meeting in June to give some extra time. I really have other plans for that 28th meeting, so I really don't want to add too much to it. And I know we have some things we may have to add to it. So yeah, I would say the June, I think it's the 8th, um, first meeting in June. We had
We'll follow your cadence.
okay,
11.
11th, June 11th. Okay. Board, any comments, questions?
So at the June 11th meeting, we'll get a big bid tabulation and a recommendation
So if
or prior to that meeting, like by the agenda deadline?
yeah, I would think before the agenda deadline, we can, both sides have kind of well, we would have to discuss our top three, in the meeting. Um, they can provide their top, candidates and have that to us, but because everything that we do is, gotta be in the sunshine, um, that may not come out until, that's probably where we discuss it then but while we're reviewing individually, we'll have our top picks, and then we come to that meeting June 11th, and then we make that decision among discussion. Yes.
Question, is it okay to get all of their tabulation sent to me and then I'll just get a consensus and then discuss the top three?
No, you can't do that, not in the public.
It has to be
You
public.
you can have each individual board member provide a rank or provide a top three and give that to Rosanna for consideration and share it, but no decision or consensus can be made. You can just say, look, I want each board member to give to rank your however many you want, 3, 5, whatever it is. They can provide that and submit that, but no consensus or decision or anything like that can be made. It can be discussed. You can do the same, of the operator and have that shared, but you're going to have to discuss it.
Yeah.
Take the next step in a public meeting.
Yeah.
Is that the Dropbox
Mhm.
folder you shared? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the tab 11B, the vendor replacement draft agreements. I know so the latest, Ted, maybe you can speak to this more. I know the latest email this afternoon was that it's not yet ready to be shared. So Savage Legal is still working through it, or
Still working through it. We crossed wires, to be completely honest, we crossed wires. It's not the right boilerplate, so I'm well aware that we are now in delinquent status. So is there a way for us to issue a letter describing, our progress thus far? We have selected a contractor. We are in the contracting phase. Is that a way to sort of stave this off? I mean, as well, I want to know if we're not pushing this as hard as possible. But it's just an internal error. We hit the wrong boilerplate to start. And so we went down a path and, I did contemplate bringing an agreement here with big draft order mark on it, but I thought that could cause more problems than solutions. So, if you were to put a hard deadline on me, get it done. Or if a letter would suffice, updating progress, I welcome your thoughts.
so making up a few times tonight, but nothing. But you're new, like you said, you're the new guy, and so a lot of the issues that you've inherited, we've been dealing with some of these things for long periods of time. I can't think of how long this one's been going on, but it's been a little bit. I don't know in delinquency status. I don't know what that looks like as far as a letter suffice or anything like that. But then there's
Sorry. So the grant that's tied to that is G2437
Mhm.
and it's ending on March 2026. So as long as the project is within now and that time, or even before that time, we need to submit invoicing to FDOT. And by the way, we have an FDOT meeting in 2 weeks, and the port operator is invited.
So if it's in draft form, could you have it by our 28th?
Okay.
I say have it, but it would so to get everything out in the packet, the meeting packet comes out a week before. So we need to, set 7 to 10 days. Could you have it ready about 7 to 10 days?
I'll do it.
Chairman,
Yes.
if, could we go back to the previous item with the bid tabulation?
Yes.
So if we're going to be determining a matrix or like a ranking, could we at least have that criteria at the next meeting? So that if at that meeting we need to adjust the ranking or just understand and improve the ranking, and maybe thereby also eliminate any non-responsive bids, that might help the process at the following meeting so that we're not seeing that for the first time. Because usually it's approving like the basic ranking criteria, right? And then if any of the bids were received and they just didn't have the basic requirements of the RFP, they could actually be excluded. So they wouldn't even make it past that initial, are they responsive and responsible bidders? So that may help us to eliminate, but I don't think you can do that without our approval. Like just in the state CCNA process. So could we have the approval criteria at the next meeting, like the ranking criteria?
So May, I've already reached out to my team. I have thoughts. I'm the newer guy on the team. I have certain bullet points I'm working on with those 10 action items. I have reached out to my team who've been there for a while, our port manager and our maintenance manager, and I've asked them to tomorrow get me ideas. So in my opinion, yes, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Commissioner Hope. All right. Up next, tab 11C, the revenue distribution and sharing arrangement with Nassau terminals. So again, one of the things that you inherited, Ted, this is in relation to it's called the pilot payment, the 50,000 to the city, and the increased tariff that is really supposed to be used to cover that cost. We started the process several months ago, and during that time, I understand that because it wasn't published yet, not every company was charged that increased tariff until I think March was the first time. And so I know in um, about a month ago or so, we received the kind of the breakdown by month of what it is. There's the bigger question about, well, what happens, for instance, when we get to October 1 and this payment's due, we're going to come up short. And I want to put Joanne on the spot. And I'm not, but but Pierre's mentioned several times that we're looking at a $15,000-$20,000 shortfall. So what happens there? On top of that, future years, if more revenue is collected, well, where does that additional revenue go? And so we haven't, I don't know where we are with this. I know there was originally some back and forth, some meetings about it. And then it seemed like communication just stopped, just halted. And then after our meeting last month, we did get, I think Greg sent out the chart. Where are we with any of that? And I'm looking at Patrick and whoever.
Yeah, so the direction at the last meeting was for me to draft a letter to send to Amy Colson, who's counsel in-house at Savage, because my emails were not being responded to. So I drafted a letter on our firm letterhead outlining the brief history, summarizing the history and the back and forth, and the fact that we're literally getting no response, and I have not gotten a response to that letter. I sent it certified, I emailed it, and there has literally been no response to it, just like the emails. So that was 13 days ago. I think I sent it the day after our last meeting, so 2 weeks ago.
What was the last response from Amy who we talked to?
Right, so the last response was sometime in January. We had a virtual meeting with her. I believe Commissioner Hill was on, Pierre was on, discussing this topic, and Pierre described and we floated the idea of what happens if there's a deficit, what happens if there's a surplus, and we verbalized our request, and Amy said, okay, I understand it. Let me take it back and see, see if I can see if that's going to be approved or if that's acceptable to the operator. And that was it. That's the last we heard. So it's been,
Sounds like it wasn't approved.
it's been late January-ish, if I recall.
Okay, so we haven't even received, I mean, we haven't
No
received feedback as to their position or anything like that. Okay. Okay, so obviously there's a disagreement. And just trying to think of, I mean, we have this operating agreement. What happens when the two sides disagree, and where do you go? But it seems like there's a much bigger issue here. Um, and ultimately, I don't, I think one of the biggest concerns is, yes, we have the operating agreement, but ultimately, really, who's in control? Do we have is the operator acting as a vendor who's providing a operating service? Or do they have control and treat this as a lease? And honestly, if they have control and this is a lease, then we'll continue to benefit from that and let them. But if they have control, then that's for things to pay property taxes, and still the case right now. But there's such a much bigger issue, whether it's related to the operating agreement, communications, or how we move forward. But for us to go back and forth with everything and for it to be as contentious as it's been is just, it's unacceptable. And I don't know whether it's their side, our side. I mean, we got to get to a point where we can figure this out. And uh, so if Amy hasn't responded, Ted, is there some way that you can get some updates as to what our request was back in January with that? Yes.
We've done that respectfully.
Mhm.
Everything that comes to mind shy of declaring breach, we've done. We've asked for meetings, we've had sidebars between lawyers, we've had requests at public meetings, we've had commitments. And so I think we should ask Patrick to declare a formal or to prepare a formal correspondence to the operator under the operating agreement and our bond indenture that lays out, our concerns and puts them on notice, because we do have, notification requirements. Respectfully, I think that we've really tried to be amicable, because we don't want to create like more drama or negative news for the port, and we want business to be we want business to improve. We want to keep jobs, and negative press is really bad for the Port of Fernandina. It's bad for the employees. It doesn't reflect well on anyone in Nassau County, all the way up to the federal government when we apply for grants. We don't need MARAD reading the Fernandina Observer and laughing at Nassau County because of that. And when I walk around the port, when I talk to security officers, when I talk to the employees, they don't want to let me leave, because they see the warehouses dilapidated. Every gate into that facility used to be automatic. It is not anymore. Up underneath the new warehouses, the pavement is buckling. Half the port floods. Our rail spur, which is one of the most important assets, is underwater at high tide. So are we going to invest in the port? Are we in it for the long haul? I mean, it's a lot easier for the members of this board, frankly, to just look the other way, but that's not our job. So we don't see movement, traction, responsiveness, transparency. And so it's a hard thing to ask you for this, but I think we need to take formal action to put, your bosses on notice that this isn't acceptable, and that this doesn't reflect on, a positive investment and good faith business relations in the benefit of Nassau County and the Port of Fernandina. So we need to, if you all are not indeed going to invest in the port and fulfill those operating obligations, we need to find a partner who will.
Commissioner Hill, I commend your comments, because I too have got phone calls, telling me that the employees appreciate the attention that commissioners are starting to pay. Um, I've been out there and I will go ahead and advise the chairman now. At the next meeting, I plan to do a photo journal on going out there and verifying everything Commissioner Hill has said about the facilities. It's deplorable. Um, I don't understand why it's, being run into the ground, but as a board, that is our responsibility there to the taxpayers in this county. And we should not allow this to happen. Every time we come to a meeting, we're told that certain things are going to be executed on either Savage's part, or now we've got some new company, Relay Terminal, and we get absolutely nothing. We get lip service. It's time the lip service stops and we start seeing some action, or on our part, we start taking action as we should have already in the past. This is totally unacceptable what's going on. These are the same folks sitting at this table that are asking us, oh, by the way, how about cutting out a piece of your property and bailing us out of this deal with the city? We can't even get them to respond to us on requests that have been made numerous times. But yet they come to this board and asking, oh, will you please help us out of this? I hope this board is listening. I hope that they're watching what's going on. If you haven't been to the terminal, let me encourage you to go. Please go out there. Just take note of what's going on. I can guarantee you, you're going to come away with a different opinion than you may have sitting here at this table. Again, Commissioner Hill, I commend you. Thank you for going out there.
You know, nothing, currently is open for our letter, identifying that we had a direct response, since January, which was removed, so I really hope. You can go back just when we did it and look at the history of care in the UK. So we're providing information. It's just time after time after time. We have to do something. It doesn't come, doesn't come, doesn't come. You know, I'll go back to the sale of the home. You know, we had on the phone generator. And going out and look at it. We could never get enough to allow anyone to go out and look at it. And that was our asset. We own this. What do we know next? We're operating no next. But we wouldn't let people go out and look at it because we wanted to buy it. It's just time and time and time and time again. And we're better. That's the bottom line.
All right, any other comments, questions?
Yeah, so Chairman, thank you for kind of leading the effort on this, because I know it's hard to turn an otherwise positive conversation into kind of rehashing things that we just need to address. So thank you for taking the lead on this. I would like to make a motion that, because we do act formally as a board by motions and resolutions. But I just would like to make a motion to formalize that we're requesting Patrick to prepare a notice of breach under the operating agreement, the bond indenture, and to follow the process as outlined in those documents.
I'll say.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hill, second from Mr. Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Oh, sorry, discussion, yes.
Okay. Just want to say that, you gotta give them, a little bit. I agree with everything that's been said. I certainly do. But, we've got to work together. We've got to work together. Lazy is, we'll work with them. But, we need to get something done.
Yeah, and again, I want to go back to what I said earlier is it's Ted being the new guy, Travis being the new guy. I get excited knowing that Ted being here has full experience. He's running between two ports right now here on the East Coast, and not having to fly in from Utah, for the meetings. But feel like having the conversations with you. You get it, you understand it. You want to make sure it's operated efficiently, effectively, and so I get excited about the future there. It's just at the same time, it's hard because we've for so long, and I've always been the optimist, the positive guy up here. Hey, let's work with them, and got to understand business, and I do, and I still want to have that relationship where yes, let's work with you on business opportunities or just trying to improve things, but we have to improve really the relationship first that we have, and again, it boils down to we can either work together or we can fight amongst each other and not all out for control. But ultimately, we have this operating agreement that we need to live by. So, all right, any further discussion?
Yeah, I did have one thing to add. Thank you. Um, one of the main concerns I've had in our relationship is our charter requirement that the revenue of the port is supposed to be deposited into an account in the name of the Ocean Highway and Port Authority. So if that's the case, then we would be regularly discussing revenues and we would have direct line of sight into the revenues of the port. And currently that is not the way the operation of the port works. We ask for funds, we ask for remittance, and sometimes we get paid timely, and a lot of times we don't get paid timely. We don't receive the information we request. It's an OPA asset, it's a public asset, which I know is different than your other terminal. But this is public infrastructure that's not on the tax rolls. And so it has to be like we are the board of this property. And if we don't have control over the revenues and we don't have line of sight to the operations, one of the members of the community put it really eloquently when I met with them last week. They said, "Why do you exist? Why do you even hold public office? Why were you elected if you don't have control over what happens out there at work?" I thought that was really profound and a solid point. So it's not against you all personally. You gentlemen are kind of walking into something you inherited. But maybe that will be for the best. But if our demand for relief that Patrick prepares, if our breach notice can provide some mutual way for us to work together with you all in the future, I am going to insist that it meets the requirements of our charter, because that is why I was elected. So if it's in that charter, we can do it. If it's not in that charter, we can't do it. And if we're doing something that's against that charter, I can't look the other way.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, so with the motion from Mr. Hill, second from Mr. Moore, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Up next, tab 11D, the settlement agreement. We do have some speakers. I'm going to give them an opportunity to go ahead and come up and speak. We have three. Starting with Mr. Fortu. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello again. Seems like this was just a week ago in a different venue. 2 weeks ago, sorry. Bob Virtue, 424 North 3rd Street. I want to remind everybody we wouldn't be here had the OPA commissioners minus Mr. Moore, Commissioner Moore, who was not part of the board, had election back last year to make the operator move. The fabric warehouse to the location they recommended. It was approved by the local board. So let's keep that in mind. So we wouldn't be here if that was the case. But the fact is that the port operator unilaterally decided to move the fabric warehouse to a location that they didn't recommend to the board. It wasn't approved by the board. So agreeing to the restriction of this in the mediation agreement settlement proposed 10-foot buffer, which is really a 10-foot restriction. Devalues the property for OPA. And that property ultimately belongs to the citizens of Nassau County. And I would say, those are elected representative in government. So I don't want to see it as a citizen, I do not see the property devalued. So in my result to reject the mediation agreement as proposed. And I would say that you'll work to vote no. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. And up next, we have Ms. Catherine Theron.
Catherine Barron, over 2 North Third Street. I appreciate the attention of the commission on this issue. And I also think the proposed actions for mediation will not compensate for the loss of the required buffer chosen solely by the contractor with no consultation with anyone else. And in direct opposition to those things that were agreed. So I would request that you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Theron. Ms. Tammy Kosak.
Because at 322 North Third, and it's not official yet, but I would like to congratulate you guys on your choice of 10 box like the other 10. And I think you all realize the great value to know about it, the institutional knowledge and the background that she brings to this board and to the city. I think that's going to be a great decision. I will speak to brevity since I've emailed all of you, but I would like to get a few of these notes from the second. First, I'd like to thank Chair Taylor, Vice Nelson, Commissioners Moore and Hill for coming out to the neighborhood to discuss the tent. We know what the facts are. There's 2 additional facts I'd just like to raise because these did come up during the settlement hearing, the administrative hearing. The flood zones where the tent is currently located and where the 2 tents were originally approved are identical. It's the AE flood zone with the exact same storm surge. One of the justifications was that this was on higher ground. It was in a better location. Secondly, one of the justifications brought forth was that this was more operationally efficient. I'm sure you are all aware that there's already been damage, pretty extensive damage to this tent, which may indicate that it is not in the most optimal location. We know what the proposed settlement is, and I am just going to say briefly why this is a lose-lose-lose settlement. The first, it's a loss to the city and the historic district. The encumbrances that are placed on both parcels, what is called the Blue House, but is really the historic Marrow House, and on your OHPA property can be viewed as detrimental deed restrictions, which may negatively impact future saleability of both properties, as well as the ability of a future owner to obtain a mortgage. The historic Marrow House is in desperate need of a caring owner with an eye towards restoration, lest the building continue its downward spiral of decline. 2 restrictions on that property will not incentivize revitalization. The proposed buffer areas do not have irrigation, and they take a beating from the elements. There's a high likelihood that whatever is planted will have a high mortality rate, since there are no mechanisms in place for maintenance or any surety bonds for longevity. These 2 vital parcels at the end of our historic district will have substantial encumbrances that run with the land due literally to an improperly erected tent. Second, OPA loses. The preservation buffer on the OHPA property will diminish the value of this parcel in unquantifiable ways. And OHPA asking for some monetary compensation for relinquishing this part of the parcel does nothing for the neighbors and visitors who see the huge tent on a daily basis. In fact, it's almost a slap in the face, because then OHPA might have some gain from this mistake, this egregious mistake. Lastly, the citizens lose. The neighbors will continue to have the glare of the sun reflecting off the parabolic shining white tent. And when some of you met with us up there, even on the hazy days, you saw how the sun came through, and as it shifts, it keeps bouncing off that tent into the neighbors' living areas, through the trees, into their living room. The view shed on the highest point of our historic district is blighted by a giant vinyl tent, which has been nicknamed the gigantic suppository. Ongoing litigation requires time, energy, and taxpayer dollars to right something that never should have occurred. In this current settlement, the operator, the one who is solely responsible for why we are discussing this and wasting time and taxpayer dollars on legal counsel, gets off relatively scot-free by claiming $3,000 for trees and shrubs. Please, we urge you to hold the operator accountable and do what OHPA is chartered to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kozak. So I do want to mention, and I know, I'm glad Mr. Virtue brought this up, but yes, there was the time when it was, the fabric warehouse was, it was constructed in the wrong location. And we, at the meeting, we had talked about it, and there was an option for them to relocate it to the original intended spot. However, I think in a bit of, at the time, maybe some good faith, also didn't want to, them to incur the I think at the time it was 350,000 is the number that we were verbally told to relocate it. And so we said, okay, this is fine. Let's not do that again. That was us again trying to work with the operator. And so when we sit here and we say we need, some help with some of these issues that we're discussing, I feel like in the beginning, I mean, yeah, the relationship was strong, it was great, and there were some things that we did. We could have said, no, put it back exactly where it is, but we didn't do that. So we're kind of just asking for the same, whether it's the revenue sharing issue and the response to that. I mean, again, because it's frustrating when we try to help, and it's we're just looking for that continued just conversation.
Chairman, if
yes.
I may, I was chair at the time, and I got a call on a weekday, and was told that the warehouse was going up in a location that we didn't approve. And I called Patrick. I asked, what are my options? Let me jog down there. So I actually jogged down to North 3rd Street and checked it out. And I was like, looking on my phone to what we approved, I didn't see anything that showed a warehouse where I saw it going up. I talked to some of the neighbors, and I called Greg, and Greg said, well, I'm pretty sure that we did send you a picture of that. And I was like, can you send me what you sent us? He didn't have anything. So he drew a box, and showed us where it was going. And I was like, well, I'm standing here looking at it. I can see where it's going, but that wasn't approved by the board. And I was like, that's a problem. If you proceed, you do so at your own risk. And he says, we'll get back to you. So I called Patrick and I said, what can I do? I'm the chair. I can't act outside of a board meeting. This is an emergency. Do we have stop work orders? What do we do when we're 5 with no director? And he said, well, you can tell and proceed at your own risk. And so I actually had Patrick put that in an email, or forget how you communicated it, Patrick. But the operator was on notice. You guys were on notice when it was maybe 20% of the way up. And so you could have stopped putting it together or told the contractor coast to coast, said, you know, we need to put it in a new location. And maybe at that point you would have realized you hadn't pulled a permit, that they hadn't pulled a permit. But we didn't know the setback issue until the permit process started. And that permit process should happen at the outset, and that should be part of your agreement with your contractor. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of like lecturing you about how to do basic business. That is not my intention. But like I have contractors that come to my house and they always include in their bid the permit costs because the permitting process tells you whether or not you're going to get a stop work order and whether or not you're going to get a CO. So I don't understand why that process wasn't followed, but that's not OPA's obligation to fix. And this solution that your lawyers have proposed, which, you know, it's a great law firm. I know these lawyers, so I know they do good work, but from a business perspective, I can't in good faith approve an encumbrance to our property because it's not OPA's obligation to fix that. And it doesn't really seem to fix the problem, which is that the warehouse is, you know, very close to that setback, and it's not where it was approved. So I can't support the settlement agreement as it's drafted. I know that we haven't quite got to that point on the you know, approving motions or whatnot, but I'm not in favor.
But we, you know, right now we do not have settlement agreements in front of us. I know it's still, like Patrick said, it's going back and forth. We're gonna go ahead.
I just wanted to add a few things, some based on the public comment and some based on the discussion here. Just for context, I'm not advocating one side or the other, but I would say that the terms in the settlement agreement you have in front of you those were created by the city. That was the city's idea. So these buffers and use restrictions were not the idea of the operator during the mediation. The operator had a different proposed settlement that the city just rejected outright and said, we're not going to accept that. And that I believe was a comp plan amendment to kind of carve these properties out from the buffer requirement. So it was the city's idea to have these use restrictions, just so you all know that it wasn't the operator. And if it still obligates OPA to do something, I understand that, but I wanted to put that out there. Also, I wanted to say, and Vice Chair Nelson was there, so I don't need to speak for him, but neither he nor I indicated that the use restriction on the open property was acceptable. What we indicated was we thought it was good enough to present to the board for consideration. And we were very clear throughout the mediation that our position was this has to be approved by the board. And we felt that generally in the term sheet, we didn't have a settlement agreement, we just had a term sheet, that it was good enough to present to the board. What I would say, given where we are right now, and generally what we know to be the settlement terms, if this board feels like there are terms in that agreement that are unacceptable that you will not approve, it would be best for me to convey that now to the city and to council for the operator instead of getting a final form that has these terms in it that you know you're not going to accept, then voting it down and we're starting all over it. So if there's consensus amongst the board members that the use restriction on open property is not going to be acceptable, then tell me that so that I can get to work on sharing that information and seeing if there's another solution, or if we have to reconvene the mediation, which was continued, and try to hash this out. I just think that's fair for all the parties involved and all the work they're doing right now, and we'll keep this from lasting another few to several months. So the one requirement in this settlement agreement that's more than just sort of technical procedural requirements is that OPA will agree to a 10-foot buffer on the northern waterward side of that wooded lot. My understanding is that use restriction will be perpetual, even though I provided comment that we only want it to be for the life of the warehouse, which is estimated in the 20 to 30-year range or something like that. So if this board finds that that's generally unacceptable, I would like to know that so that I can take that to the other side and continue to have a dialogue.
I'm not in favor of 12.
Comments, the board?
I'm not in favor of, relinquishing OPA assets.
So we, and I'm gonna bring it up. I referenced earlier we chose at the time not to force the operator to move the fabric wells to the original intended location. And with that was a cost of $350,000. I understand it may be beneficial to the operations and maybe easier for operations. Do we know truly what that cost is to relocate that fabric warehouse?
I have no idea. I don't know, but if you, Jeremy, if you allow me, I will get an estimate.
I mean, I would like to know. And again, if we're going back and forth with this, it's either if this isn't a good settlement that the city's proposed, and then, but then again, the other way to do it is it just goes back to or goes to its original intended location that met that met all the legal requirements. But without again not knowing what that cost is, if it comes in under six figures, maybe it's just doing that. But again, 350 I think was thrown out there is just it was an arbitrary number where that was just a real quote, but it was a verbal. So if you can find that out for us, we can leave that or something as well.
Yep, give me, give me a deadline.
Yeah, tomorrow. No, no, I think because again, this is something we need to move relatively quick on. Like you said, we need to know kind of the direction we're going with the settlement. We got three firms looking at this. I would say about a week. I mean, if you have it something in a week, 7 to 10 days.
I do my very best.
Okay. So we can at least have that on the table for discussion at our meeting on the 28th. Any other board comments related to this? I do. I'm sorry.
Patrick, do you have enough direction?
Yeah, I just want to know whether I'm conveying or we're holding off until we get this information. Or whether I'm conveying to the other side that the use restriction on open property is not acceptable.
I think that, but then also just let them know that we are looking at other options. And just full transparency. So our next tab is the contract for legal services. This particular issue we're discussing now, Ms. Bach would not be able to work on that. So that would be something that if we enter into this agreement with Tammy, it becomes she becomes our attorney effective when it's signed. But we would need to decide if Patrick's going to be the one to continue forward with it. I think just for continuity, he should. But I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention as well.
Yeah, so if you move forward that way, what we would do is set up a separate matter, totally separate engagement letter, same rate. And I'll remind you that the operator has agreed to reimburse my fees for this matter specific to the fabric warehouse. So really it would be paperwork more than anything, but we'd have to set that up. That would have to come back in front of you, an engagement letter for the chair to sign, but I can work either with you directly and certainly keep Tammy in the loop. But yeah, there would be a conflict here about.
Great. Any further comments, questions?
Yeah, so I do think we need to see a map with a block of where the warehouse, this size warehouse is located, because from what I'm able to find, and a member of the audience is providing you a pictorial. Yep, so what was attached to the actual meeting minutes was actually two warehouses. And we have one somewhat bigger warehouse. And so I would like to see the exact location I think the process would be to apply for that permit, make sure that you'll get the permit there. But I mean, I'm gonna let you handle that because that's in your agreement with the contractor. But please just don't proceed to move it without, following the process. So let the board approve that location and make sure that we're.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, speaking of the city, I think, his ears were ringing. Vice Mayor Darren Askew, popped in, so he's here. Just wanted to welcome him. Thanks for being here. All right. Up next is, tab 11E, contract for legal services. This is the agreement, that we, directed Patrick to work with, Ms. Bach on. I know it's very similar to the current agreement he has. I think there's some modifications. Any comments, questions? Ms. Bach, welcome, welcome.
I should say,
Will we have it by next meeting, or we'll have it tonight, or?
you have the
We have the
agreement,
agreement, yeah.
right? So your action item would be to accept the agreement and give the chair the authority to execute. What we got.
So I just wanted to understand in the billable rates, because it's come up in paragraph 2, that there's 15 hours of legal services, which I know we typically do consume more than that. But if that's not used, but then in addition to that 15 hours, travel time would be billed in addition plus time at the meetings.
You should probably ask Tammy that directly. She's here.
Okay.
I think it'd be better for her to explain it.
But you can validate that we normally use 15 hours just for basic board stuff, not litigation related.
Correct. And I don't, Tammy's obviously local. I don't charge for time to come to a meeting like this one. And I've never had to travel on behalf of OHPA other than to come to Nassau County.
Okay, yeah,
But we do bill litigation separately.
Tammy, could you come up? Okay.
So I see I'm looking at the marked up version and I'm sure they have the clean and marked up, but there were just a couple of changes. So with travel time, what I mean is I'm not looking at what exactly Patrick has done in the recent past and currently. But what about if the Port Authority wanted me to travel to Tallahassee to a courts council meeting? I charge $300 a month for that travel time. So that is very infrequent and hasn't happened for Patrick. But if that needs to be clarified, I can clarify that. Certainly, there's no travel.
Oh, so you're saying you're not charging to attend the meetings?
No, well, yes, my hourly time here for the meetings is charged, absolutely. Yes, but it's not travel time, it's hourly.
Okay, I guess I just didn't understand that. I misunderstood. I thought it was the time you're attending was in addition to the 15, but you're saying
I'm
it's
saying
not
it's
considered
included
travel.
because my understanding is that's included. I
Yeah.
wanted this to be exactly like what Patrick's contract looked very reasonable. And I'm assuming that the 15 hours is also including attendance, not time from,
Correct.
the door to here, but the time that we spend in these meetings is charged towards 15 hours.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if you want me to completely remove travel time, I can, but it really is only intended to be outside of these meetings for special occurrences.
Regardless, we'd have to approve, you going to traveling or to Tallahassee. So
I can add in there because that's in many contracts like that for executives, that needs to be pre-approved by the board or through the chair, however you make it out. I certainly did not intend for there to be any confusion. I wanted it to be as easy as possible.
It's plain. I appreciate that it's like very straightforward. It's not too long. It doesn't really go into like the individual matters that are included within the scope. Would there be like, in addition to this, separate engagement letters for individual matters, like for conflicts purposes, or?
Probably, if there was a special project, yes, but this could include all the things that were in your RFP that talked about the services you need. If there's anything outside of that, I don't think that would need another engagement agreement. Okay, but other than litigation, mine and our firm's hourly rate for attorneys is $300 an hour. So if it were a special project, it's still the same amount.
More comments, questions, action?
So for the matters that are currently ongoing with Savage, how do we handle those?
I think once you do this, I think we need to get together and talk about it, whether that's, probably to start would be Tammy, the chair, and I, just to kind of go over what is out there, what's being worked on, and then decide, how to move forward. And then that would obviously have to come back in front of you. So whether that's, you want to keep me on in the property appraiser case or not, I think if you've got an import attorney, she needs to take the lead on making those decisions and making those recommendations to you. The only one that we're now that's a direct conflict is the fabric warehouse matter. And as I told the chair, and I think you, Commissioner Hill, I'm prepared to assist and try to help bring that to a closure. And then, anything in the future that pops up, I'm available to assist if that's what, Tammy recommends and you all agree with.
Yeah, so the issues related to breach of the agreement, it seems like you have, a lot of history there that would be lost and we would be starting over. But we do have to start over at some point, so.
Right. I think I'd like to have an opportunity to talk with Tammy about that matter and kind of talk through that, to make sure that you all are where you need to be.
Okay. Comment, question, action?
You seeking a motion to approve?
If that's what you wish to make a motion.
All right, I make a motion to approve the contract lead service to the firm for the product. You can build on any. I second.
All right, so a motion from Commissioner Moore, second from Commissioner Cole. All those in favor?
I
All right. And congratulations, thank you. And welcome to the team. After all this, I'm surprised you're still, I'm kidding. But I do want to thank Patrick for his time. And it really does mean a lot that you didn't leave us high and dry. You submitted your resignation, your contract allowed for 60 days, and you stuck with us to ensure we went through this process and we got somebody. So for your services and everything you've done, you had some big challenges in front of you with this board, and certainly grateful for your service and for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so the contract says that the start date is tomorrow. If that is the right, that's the way you want to proceed?
Tomorrow.
Oh, there we go. All right.
take the rest of the day off.
I say one other thing, like, despite what people say and think about lawyers, Patrick and I have talked off the clock about other cases, so if there's things that we have to, wrap up and agree to, I mean, it's not like we're gonna get nickel and dime, certainly, I know Patrick doesn't, and I certainly will not do that. So we're gonna get some good efficient legal care for you. Continue Patrick's legacy.
No.
What's that? I do get it. No, it was a time, so thank you.
All right, up next, in a new business. Tab A, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol remittance change. Rosanna.
Yeah, so it hasn't prefaced the discussion. So this is tied to the IT update at the Customs House for the CBP. And that project was tied to a grant, an FSED grant, G1K57, and that ended on March 31st, 2024. So I'm thinking the invoices will come until they don't. And the operator continues to pay for them. And so now, USCBP sent me an option to pay through ACH. So I would like to ask the board if the operator can do that, or Joanne, Pierre would probably need like a paper trail, correct? He
Oh,
would
yeah.
probably like a check.
Yeah, well, the
Okay.
paper trail is,
For just auditors.
yes, for the auditors.
Okay, and I just thought of that after I put the item on the agenda. So the operator cannot pay directly through ACH. So we will continue receiving the invoice. Then I will, this is the procedure. I will get the invoice from USCBP. I will then submit it to the operator. The operator will send the fund, and I will then cut the check and send it to CBP. They are not getting reimbursed for this anymore because the grant expired.
That amount was 800, correct?
For this month, it was 586, but they go up to over 1,000, and they send one every month.
For this item, there's a no action on it since we can't move forward with ACH. Tab 12B, grant writing. You got some-
So again, OPA can and will help the operator apply for grants, find grants to help them out with the cost of projects. And so we will need a grant writer for the PIDP. And I believe one of the engineering services, they do grant writing. So you might want to consider that. Also, too, we need to schedule a meeting because the PIDP deadline is September 10th of this year. I need to enter all the 10 projects to apply for FSTED grant and C-Hub. So I need for the operator to rank those 10 projects because that's required. You need to rank the project in order of need assessment.
Sure.
Yes.
So, the student members here, but can I speak freely on a daily basis to Rosanna to work with things like this?
Yeah, and so I actually had one of the things that I want to discuss. This is actually a perfect time to do it. Is really the process moving forward, and really because with Ted and Travis being new, what does that look like? I mean, you're coming here, you're going to have a different idea on how a process should flow and things should work. But yes, things like that. Working with her, I mean, she's ultimately carrying out our direction and handling the management of OPA, so to speak. So absolutely, yeah, work with her on that with what we need and just try to get it done.
Yeah, I just want to break some kind of SOP.
Yep.
So that we're, we can action on things, but we're also efficient and we do it, in collaboration. So, I mean, I don't want to get quicksand here, but I mean, should we start, a regular discussion on grants and which direction we want to go with?
Yeah, I mean, because any grants we pull down, absolutely. I mean, there should be a regular discussion about grants and things that you see out there, things that we may see, and we collaborate. And yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I just think we need to put the roadmap in front of us. Like, for instance, the PIPD, many times, the between deadline and award can be 8 months, right? And then from award to funding can be 2 years, right? So that really impacts on what we should be going for, with that. And so more short-term items could be tackled with different grant programs, state grant programs, but PIPD is one I'm really excited about for Medina because I'm not gonna rabbit around here, but I don't know if you're aware, there's a small grant project. But it's small, it's up to $11 million, and we do qualify as a small port. So 25% of that whole bucket for PIPP is designated for that program. So it's something I think we should definitely try to max out.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Also, Commissioner Moore has been working with me on all this, the grants. So it's not just me, so
Mm.
Commissioner Moore is there with me.
So the PIDP, the deadline was pushed, correct?
September 10th now.
Okay.
Yeah, the no project match the after the resolution. There's a lot of grants out there that we qualify for that we never applied to because we don't have it in the first place. In play to actually need to shepherd the process. We all have our day jobs, and grants are not the easiest thing in the world, right? So they tend to, when they're done as an additional duty, they tend to get shoved aside on you deal with it, if you want to. Or you know, please. Yep, 2 days before the grant application is due and I couldn't agree more. I think it's a worthy investment to start to go down the road of engaging social third party. And my opinion is it would be a firm or an individual that has done state and federal grant applications. But that's just my opinion.
So I know you have a grants consultant on retainer already because that's who Savage used for previous grant applications. It was Blue Jay, or I forget the name of the company.
Well, I wrote RSNH. They do grant writing and HNTB.
HNTV does, yep.
Yeah, and we've worked with both of them.
Right.
So
So HNTV was the company that performed our resiliency analysis for the port. So they won the state contract to reach out to ports and basically write like a needs statement or needs assessment. And Port of Fernandina has already like put the flag in the problem. And we have the needs assessment prepared, and published, and it's been attached to our meetings. So this covers like everything that's resiliency related, pretty much like one of the largest infrastructure investments in the Port of Bernardina to meet all those needs. Like it really does kind of tee us up for identifying the problem, scope analysis, and then applying for the funds, like coming up with a plan for the next 5 to 10 years as to what investments needed in the port. But if you don't have a copy of that, I can make sure you have it. I know you all had an analysis done for electrical and other infrastructure needs, and like all of that like says the same message. It's the same story, which is that we need durable investment. It's saltwater environment. It's just like you have to fight just to stay even. So and typically what's happened in the past is that the operator has prepared that first draft, and in some cases they submitted it without us seeing it. So that was before Savage, that was before Butch and Greg. And so now we've had a better, I think, working relationship than we did with the previous operator, where we did get draft applications, but it still was kind of close to the deadline. So we would obviously like to, be actively communicating through that whole process. And would that be you, Greg? That would be like our point of, or I'm sorry, that be your point of, would you be the point of contact for the grants, or is it gonna be Travis, or?
Generally, yes. Some of the technical would come from us. I'm just gonna need a resource to help. And I'm not asking, I know how that's gonna work. And that's why, I should have, we need to be going now, identify a resource, engage them, and then, you know, it's not like I can pick up the phone and call y'all, you know, but hey, we're debating, so we have to do it in the appropriate manner, and time will slip away, like, especially for a larger grant process, so I don't know how to set that up to identify that, engage, but I'm, my ears are open.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, HNTB needs assessment and then your own engineers, infrastructure survey that you all did. I forget the name of the consultant that, I'm drawing a blank. But both of those analysis would be kind of like your starting point. And then the PIDP, NOFO is like a roadmap. So you just make sure that you're tying our physical needs to what the grant parameters are, like showing the impact. So if it's like showing the impact on a rural community, like citing what makes us qualify. I mean, people like make business out of just that. And I think they get up to 5% of the grant proceeds as a premium for their time. But happy to assist. Sounds like Commissioner Moore is helping, but I did help with some of the prior grant applications. The key pitfalls to avoid are don't apply for two different grants with the same project. That's also not a good idea. But when it comes back to the boards, we just need time to kind of issue spot those things so that we don't get, like you said, down to the deadline.
All right. Well, thank you. Great discussion. And yeah, let's before do you have anything else to add with that, Savannah?
Well, I did forward a copy of the last PIDP narrative to Ted and Travis, and I've asked for their availability to schedule a meeting with Commissioner Moore. And so I'm just waiting for a response.
I will read all.
Thank you.
Next one.
Okay, so I'm gonna add something to the agenda. Um, it's not on here, but he's here, so I'm gonna ask Davis Bean if he can come up and give a little update on the lobbying efforts. I know regarding the customs house appropriations we requested, that was a big number. I think north of $2 billion, but as of when I was there with you a couple of weeks ago, it was a lot of tension in the Capitol. But we're still sitting at 350,000, and I know you weren't here at the last meeting, but I can give a little bit of an update about that and how Senator Yarborough's been real instrumental in helping us keep that in there and even trying to get a little bit more. I don't know if you have an update. You probably don't, but I just wanted to thank you for your time and what you're putting into. It's very valuable and can certainly help us get where we get with this customer's house.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. No update here. We were supposed to be back in Tallahassee this week to finalize budget. Obviously, I'm here right, so that did not come to fruition. So they're going to come together. They're going to get a deal July 1st, the new state's fiscal year. Right now, as it stands today, we are still included in the Senate proposal of $350,000. That's a placeholder amount. Obviously, the hope is to go up. It really comes down to the big debate over there is tax cuts and what a great state to live in, where the debate is whether it's a sales tax cut or a property tax cut. They'll come together, they'll get a budget together, and then we'll see how the cards shake out. But for right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern. But as the chairman mentioned, two great sponsors, Senator Yarborough, Representative Black, fighting for our interests over there. So I wish I had more to tell you, but we're kind of in a holding pattern until we know more.
And I kind of knew that. So, but I just wanted to call you up and we're here for you. Again, thank you for your time and your effort there. And I've always said, if we can get some state appropriations for different projects, Customs House is one. Maybe there's some other opportunities, in the future. So, thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So can Mr. Bean, help us with the support letter for the PIDP or?
So Davis is under contract with the operator, not us. And I think he probably has a lot on his plate.
depending on, the scenario, we've helped the operator and you all with different grant applications with getting required letters of support in the past from local players. Happy to do that as long as Ted's okay with it, which I'm sure he is.
I got thumbs up.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to reach out to some people at the city that I know.
All right, so office manager report, Rosanna, does that cover everything, or was there anything else?
If I may ask, one more question
Mhm.
to the operator, can I?
Whatever, yeah.
Does the port operate in on a just in time? It's one of the inquiries that I received, and I don't know the answer.
So, are you referring to the questionnaire that came across from the Yale student?
Yes.
So, is it asking just in time, like, I'm seeing more context on what it's.
That's all she asked.
So they had number of
Does the
container,
port, yeah.
there's
Well, I
questions
could,
in there, but
I'm going to send our tonnage report for that, but the just in time system she's asking, I don't know what that is. So
So
that's
I'm gonna go on a limb here just because my past larger port authority, I believe this is going back. There's probably a student study going on
Mm.
with efficiency of container terminals in the United States. We are not a really large container terminal. We have one container customer. They're a very niche customer, so we don't have the gate system, you know, anything like that say Jacksonville or Savannah has. So honestly, I don't want to crush the person's dreams, but I just think our data point would be such an outlier of what they're likely trying to do. But I'm happy to try to answer the question.
Well, I could just say no.
Well,
On that.
I wouldn't tell them yes or no, but you could point her to the tariff, which has pricing structures for like goods in the warehouse longer than a certain period of time. And she's free to look at that. That's also a public document.
Okay.
I mean, just in time was like a supply chain principle, that there's no lag, right?
Right, right.
That's why we had with COVID, things crashed because everything in the United States is just in time for manufacturing and distribution. There's no elasticity in that supply chain. And so that's why I'm confused what the student's referring to.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's why I defer to you. So, all right, I will send the tonnage report and the tariff schedule. Thank you. And also, just to be clear, I have the board's authority to work with the port operator with,
well, that's what
With
I was telling. Yeah, that's
okay, thank you.
port commissioner items. Mr. Moore.
All right, I'll be brief. Already on meeting with state of Florida and FDOT doing many other people here, 50% statewide work. It has nothing to do with incidents, terms, as nothing to do with any known pending business. It's just a work that's happening for now, the various works around the county or around the city. Could impact state of Florida and what they do. We are top three, which was interesting. But again, has nothing to do with any pending business, it's just an assessment. So if a company that's part of the state Florida process decides they want to do something and they need a port, then they can go to this assessment and look at it and decide if they're going to contact actually work. No pending business directly because perhaps down the road we agree that it's something we should get involved in. At a meeting today, there's currently going on a physical exercise primarily related to, St. John's River and Jack Fort. The scenario is a hurricane shoaling, St. John. No play for the, direct way, but it does bring up, and probably a good time that we, dust off our hurricane plans. So we're about 18 days away from the start of, hurricane season. So we probably, take that as they work lives and stuff up those plans and make sure they want to do if we just think about it. Very talked about the MVP. Nobody else wants to go with
Mr. Cole.
that. As you're on the subject of hurricane preparedness, the Economic Development Board had a conference, or conference we call it, last week at the emergency management area, and for the guest speakers. We had two meteorologists from Channel 4 at the meeting, and it was very successful and very informative meeting.
Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to defer what I have on the facility maintenance and equipment damages. I'm in the middle of the photo journal right now. I will present that to the board on May 28th for your viewing, and hopefully we can get some direction at that time.
Commissioner Hill.
Yep, so I'll report on TPO. So we met with Clark, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Travis with North Florida, Smart North Florida.
Yes, Clay.
Thank you. It's one of those senior moments. I'm sure I'll have many more. All right. So our project, which is the Port of Fernandina traffic study, has been approved, and this is the queuing issue on Dade Street. These funds were funded either entirely or partially from FHWA carry forward funding, and so they are not available until July 2025. So that means that our project, our study, will not start activity until later in the summer. But that will be, I think, really meaningful. Just as a reminder, this is kind of an incubator program through Smart North Florida where we can leverage resources from the Florida Department of Transportation. So things like drones or cameras that might be on light poles, or using existing infrastructure for, pretty low buy-in to be able to borrow this equipment and put it on our poles, and then observe the trucks that are coming in on Dade Street, and to observe their movement perhaps through the entrance of the port, whether trucks are coming over the scales and then leaving the port because they're lost. That's a good data point to know how many trucks do that on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. And then just to understand, which trucks tend to arrive 10 hours before their appointment time, much, to your trouble and to the neighbor's trouble that they're parking and queuing on Dade. So that traffic study got approved. Very happy about that. Also, May 20th at 4:30, please mark your calendars. There is a virtual Nassau County TIP presentation. This is via Zoom. You all have the links in your inbox, and Rosanna I think she's posted on the website or will. But this is the Nassau County virtual TIP presentation, which is next week. It's really important to get Nassau County representation because we don't have a lot of rooftops, so we don't get a lot of bites at the apple. Funds are allocated based on rooftops, but needs accrue based on road miles and the number of people coming to Nassau County, coming across the bridge and jamming up the bridge every day, right? And so we need to be very thoughtful and poised with our projects, that when the funding does become available, that we are prepared to prioritize the projects that make the most impact. So just as a reminder, TPO approves FDOT's allocation funding for the county. So it's really important that we have a voice in that process. So please log into the Zoom link. If you have questions about the project, some of the projects are going to impact trails projects in Nassau County. There are projects on that list that impact the city of Fernandina Beach. Atlantic Avenue is on that list, road resurfacing projects. So we do need members of the community to be active and participating in these meetings. And I have a flyer for safe routes to schools. This program has been completely revamped, so anybody that has contacts with local schools themselves, not with the school board, you actually need a local school that's willing to participate. So I've provided it to Southside Elementary because I know them, but there's a list. I mean, we have 30 schools that we could potentially reach out to. So if anybody would like to take it on themselves to do a good deed for the community, if you're driving in the morning and you see kids lined up at bus stops, the way to get funding for safe routes to schools is by those schools actually sponsor their school. So the administrators, the principals of the school have to put their hand up and say they want to be in this study, and it's free money. And if you have a study that identifies your traffic issues and your safety issues, that's how you get funding to fix it. That's how you get bus stops. It's not through the school board. It's by a school administrator putting their hand up. So if you know any principals of high schools that will be willing to put their hand up, have flyers for you. And then the next meeting for TPO is not for another month. They had a training that will be this weekend in Tampa that I'm not able to attend for TPO board members, but another free opportunity for training. It just happens to conflict with my daughter's cancer cycle, so I'll be there. I also have an update, not on TPO. Can I just give you my full update?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
all right.
good.
So the warehouse mural idea that has legs, and I reached out to Sierra Colgrove, who is on. Actually, she reached out to me. She is on the Nassau County Arts Council. So the city doesn't have an arts council anymore. It's now managed at the county level. They have murals that have gone up in Hilliard. They're beautiful. And I've spoken with Natalie Wu, local business owner, right across from one of our warehouses. And she would like to serve in whatever capacity, volunteer capacity on the committee. Obviously, we want someone from relay terminals to be involved, tell us what your concerns are and to participate. But if others, have nominations for a committee, now's the time to tell me so that we can kind of pull those contacts together or send them to Rosanna, please, to serve in that capacity. Otherwise, I'll just try to come up with a list. I don't know. Of folks that might be interested from the neighborhood that are gonna have to look at this every day, maybe someone from the city. But that,
We have neighbors here. I was.
Yeah. These neighbors would be good to include. So the idea is that sections of the warehouse could have murals on them or entire sides, depending on what's, what we determine is feasible through this process. We're kind of in the process of discovery, but we do have local businesses that have offered to sponsor the art in sections to pay for it. So right, the section that's directly in front of Wicked Bow it already has a sponsor for that section. And so the Arts Council and Sierra, who's on the board, has offered to sort of take the idea forward and determine what steps would be next. And I also followed up on the port entry issues. I met with the security guard at the port, and just to reiterate, the gates that used to be automatic are no longer automatic. And when they did that project, the security guards have stated over and over that things continue to be more challenging. Like they want an additional person because they can't go and physically open a gate for the rail car to come through and then abandon their post. And so either they have to add another person, or the gates need to be automated. So they're kind of facing some constraints in the way that they run their perimeters. And we do need the doorways that, to be clearly marked as port perimeter. You're entering a controlled critical infrastructure area. Need to say no trespassing, some type of signage, but also just physical entryway restriction. If I try that door, I shouldn't be able to find myself inside the port, without much effort. We need to have all the perimeters secured. So I've heard this consistently from Commissioner Nelson's reports. I've heard it from the security guards, but I think just given recent incidents, we need to prioritize that issue and put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And that's all I have.
That's it?
Mhm.
Yes.
Committee Bill, thank you for your time and the parking lot. Trip.
Yes, sir.
Number one on my great job with your efforts. And I hope Southside benefited from it. I did meet with her name escapes me. But
Ms. Dawn?
yes, I think that was her. She was raising money, told me what it was for. I got a goal of 9,000, or that's how much she needed. But I hope they at least close the gap on that goal a little bit. I did try to go by every day and spots looked they were parking, they were using it, so it was great. And I ran into Mr. Moore down there. He was getting ready for his shift to help volunteer for them. So certainly appreciate the service there. Couple of community things are coming up this weekend. Friday is Cocktails for the Gardens. It's a Keep Nassau Beautiful benefit. It's a lot of fun. Went last year to the first one they did. Got another one. This is at Main Beach. They just erected the tent where it's going to be held. And it's a great event, raising money for a great organization. They have a silent auction, a live auction. They have, I think, David's is curated bites from David's. I asked what curated bites is. It's apparently it's hors d'oeuvres, just another way of saying hors d'oeuvres. But Hupp and Ray, famous local rock stars and chair of the county commission, Hupp Hupman. Hupp will be forming alongside Ray, and they have a pretty entertaining and fun MC for the evening. So I hope to see many of y'all there. And then Saturday we have opening of the beaches, second annual opening of the beaches. They have two looking at Peters Point and Main Beach, but from 10 to 7 at Main Beach, they're going to have food trucks, vendors, live music. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun last year, so I'm sure I'll see some of you there. So just great activity taking place this weekend. The May 28th meeting, and I had mentioned this at our last meeting. I wanted to keep the agenda relatively short, so we're going to add just a few things on there that we had talked about tonight. But we're going to really focus on a workshop style where we're going to discuss our goals, priorities, and our objectives, and really review what we want to do with girls. What do we want to do? We come in here and we oversee the ports of Fernandina, but there's so many other things, other opportunities out there. So I want to have some good, meaningful discussions. So bring your ideas, bring your thoughts. We will have some of our economic development partners. Sherry Mitchell will be here. Holly Coyle from the county will be here. So again, I'm looking forward to some great discussion with that meeting on the 28th. And then other than that, I want to, of course, again, welcome Ted and Travis. Meetings aren't always this seemingly contentious, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, I'm glad that you're both here. Your boots on the ground, really handling the day to day, and it's very. I think we're hopefully moving in the right step with some good folks here. So welcome. Of course, welcome Tammy Bott. We're glad that you'll be joining us at our next meeting. We start tomorrow, so don't be late. And again, Patrick, sincere gratitude for what you've done for this board, and very grateful for your service over your time.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
But if anything, yes.
I did one more. Congratulations to our chair for winning that award at the Marriott.
Thank you.
Congrats.
What award did you win?
It's well, you can read the paper. It's yeah, no, it's thank you. That picture, it's oversized picture. It's too big.
Sales Director of Sales and Marketing.
I do want to just point out the event was a Kentucky Derby theme, so that's why I'm dressed like that. The owners of the company, the president of the company, didn't follow the theme, so I have got so much stuff from friends for wearing that suit. So thanks for now bringing this up in a public meeting. We're adjourned.
I did see that. That was a great picture.
It's like, food right there.
Thank you.